Afternoon, it's Paul Riley at Fitness Depot in Porch and Patio. Just want to give you some pointers as to how to build a Stratford deep seating group. First thing, when you open up the box, just make sure you have all the parts. So there's the arm sets, seat and backs. So this is for a love seat if you have two seat and backs. And if it's a love seat, you'll have a center leg, front and back, and then they cap with the Stratford on the front of the seats. And then the back seat has a part that's rounded on the top. I usually suggest taking all your screws and separating them so they're in the same order, and when you're starting to go through the instructions, it'll tell you whether it's a G or an M or an H bolt, so you know which screw to put in. Use a Robertson screw, so I know it says 6-inch driver bit. It is a Robertson. It looks like it's a Phillips. Do not use a Phillips. Often these screws will strip if you use something that's soft, so Robertson is what you want. And then just you'll see an impact gun or a driver a drill. So I'm just using a drill here with that extension piece. So what I usually recommend you'll do this first step, which is basically, first step is the seat and back. So you're going to see the small screw and the long screw. So they'll be in package on their own, 2 long screws, 2 short screws. And that's for the first set of the seats. You'll see a lot of them in the secondary screws will be for the arm set that go into the side of the arm with a short one at the top, and then the smaller screws to connect everything together underneath, and at the all the attachments that you put onto the front and the top of the seat will be the smaller screws. You want to make sure that you grab the right one, because if you get too long, it'll end up going through the actual part that you want it to show, when it'll come through the other end. So be careful that what screw you're using when you're doing this. So the first step will be over here. You'll see the seat and back. So to put this together, basically it's quite easy. Putting the seat back, kind of notice that it's got this little overlap here. So you line it up. I usually am looking for the back of the seat. So I want to make sure, a little harder to do this with one hand, but you want to make sure that this is lined up with the back of the seat. So when you go to put that first screw in, that's lined up. The secondary screw will be coming in from the bottom here. What you want to make sure is when you are putting this in, I'm just going to move this for a quick second to show better the demonstration. So when you got the first screw in, this will be snug here, but sometimes this is proud, it's not even. So you just want to make sure when you put this screw from the bottom here in, that you're either pushing up or pulling down on this a bit. Just there's a little bit of flex here, just so that's even. And then when you put the next chair, if you're doing a love seat, another seat and back, you want this to be even. If it's proud or in, then it doesn't make full contact with the actual seat. Okay, so from the next step basically is putting the arm on. Now the arm, if you're looking at it, there's a score line that they put on the bottom. So this is going to be slightly exposed, but not very much. There's a secondary line right here. So the seat, the bottom part will be just on the edge will be just on the bottom of that. So you'll see it looks like this. So you can't really see it, but the line is right there, and that's what you kind of want. Now to line it up, what you're going to see is the back and the arm should be pretty flush here, and it'll be a little bit behind at the arm. So it's not going to be flush up at the front. That allows you, after you put the seat on, you attach the 2 front pieces behind your leg when you're sitting. And I usually suggest doing the top one first, because you don't want this to be pushing it up and this being higher, and you catch your leg on it as you're getting on and off. So the seat cushion will be a bit raised, but you want this pretty even with the top of the seat. So we're doing this one first and then this one second. It's okay to have a little bit of a gap here. That's pretty common, because these are a little bit bigger, just to make it easier to get in. When you have to stack them in a love seat or a sofa, one of the things that's really important, and you notice I put some clamps here, is to make sure that these are even. obviously because you want these to line up, and also the front. If these aren't flush, and I'm going to just lift this up for a second, if you have the front of this not level, this is an extreme case, but if this isn't flush here, then your pieces that you're going to be adding to this won't be level. So just keep that in mind when you're doing it. You can do it where you put the arm on the side and then flip it down against the ground, but I've got this on a rubber mat, but outside, usually when I'm doing this, I put down a heavy blanket just to keep it protected. And when I'm going to write this, so I'm putting all the seats together once I've got the arm on, and then I'm putting these on secondary. You'll notice that they've got a little 90-degree elbow. I would put the screw into the upright piece first, and then once you kind of got that straight, then screw it in. So it's not thick enough to go through both pieces. They have a single triangle, so you just pick one of the two sides, and you can do the opposite if you feel like it for the front. I would not recommend putting it in the dead middle because it's not really grabbing material, it's pushing the two sides apart. So just putting it off center off to one of these two seats, and most of the weight sitting on the back part. So this is just to stabilize this, keep it from moving. Again, when you're moving this around, it's good to lift it straight up because you don't want to put unnecessary stress on the connections here, dragging it left and right and that. So try to lift it straight up when you're going to move it. But yeah, keep in mind that this has to be pretty level and this part has to be pretty level. And I do recommend using clamps because it is a slippery material. So if you start driving in a screw to connect them, it might move on you. And if you have it clamped, it won't have that chance. So usually I do the bottoms first so that the top side, that's probably very important. See how this is now not as proud? So I would just tighten up the clamps so that it's flush in the front and even here. And then I'd worry about the back after I've got that done. So normally I connect the seat and the back to the seat together and then just connect them a couple screws down the back. You can do this pretty easy by hand, but if you want to use a clamp, you can do that as well. If you're just doing a single chair, you won't need to do the center legs. It's just going to be another arm on the opposite side. So there'll be the M bolts that M screw bolts that you're going to put on. So you just make a seat and back, and then put your arm on one side and then the arm on the other. But be mindful of that little score line because that's where the bottom of the seat's supposed to sit. And if you have it up on its side, you'll also notice where the screws are going in, that they should be lined up with the middle of the seat and back. If it's too high or too low and you don't have the screws, this is obviously from the opposite side, if you don't have these lined up with the actual seat, then you're going to be, if you're hitting it high, then you may not get the whole actual seat. So just make sure that it's in the seat's in the middle of these two screws, and the back line should be fine. It'll be even with this and even with the bottom, and you'll see the arm go in properly there, and then also at the top that'll go into the middle of the arm as well. If you have any more questions, feel free to let me know. Paul Riley from Kittens Depot in Porch and Patio. Thank you.